Hey, party people, and welcome to this episode of But Are You Weird? A podcast dedicated to spending time talking with some creative, captivating, and downright cool people, diving into their world and ultimately asking, but are you weird? I'm Amanda, your host and resident weirdo, and I'm so happy you are here with us. And our guest on this episode is Jaclyn. Yay, Jaclyn! First thing, Jaclyn, it's Jaclyn?
It is, but I definitely have gone by Jackie my entire life.
Your life. Okay. I thought so.
Yes, but it's just kind of like the adult professional thing to go by my name. But then I usually tell people, you can call me that, but I might not respond as quickly, you know?
The uber professional podcast of But Are You Weird?
Yes.
Well, it's so funny because I was like, I'm pretty confident it's Jackie, like it's Jackie. And then I was looking at your name, like, of course, from Facebook. And I'm like, I would have remembered Jaclyn because of the way that it's spelled. And I'm sure if you've listened to any episodes, like I get really, I don't know about excited. I guess I would actually say excited about how people's names are spelled. And that's a different way of spelling.
You saw my message about our names having the exact same number of letters. So
oh my gosh. Yeah. Actually, do you want to tell people what the heck you're talking about?
Yes. So at this point, I've kind of more or less hyphenated my name. So my name is Jaclyn Alexander Venn. So I'm recently married to a wonderful man named Thomas Venn and definitely want to take his last name. I'm very proud of my maiden name, Alexander, but still legally I'm just Alexander across the board. Choosing not to take the Venn for, I guess, political reasons at the moment. But yeah, so for political and voting reasons, I'm choosing to keep my name as it is on my stuff. But yes, Jackie is always what I have gone by, what everyone, Jack, Jacko, any variety thereof.
Jacko?
Yes.
Oh.
That's the softball one a lot. Smacko.
Oh.
Smacko kind of came from Jacko, and that's on a bunch of my softball jerseys. So it was a local softball girl that initially started saying it, but then my military team, my battalion team, we all put nicknames on a jersey because obviously you're always your last name, so it was cool to not be something else for a little bit. And I could literally smack the crap out of the ball, so they started calling me Smacko once they knew my name was Jackie. So it was just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of taking the thing. But yeah, Jacko is my sister mostly calls me Jacko.
You've already let us into a little bit about you. So I know you through softball. That's how we got connected. Playing against you, definitely I remember that because you were really good. And then we were teammates for a bit, usually on the Jamrog team. Yep. And then, but you also just mentioned the battalion. So I guess going into like, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you?
Yes. So that's obviously just touches on a little bit of me, but definitely absolutely make me who I am currently. Softball is obviously something that's been always part of my life, and playing. My dad lied before I was even eligible to play and said I was older than I was so I could play with my sister. So I've been playing that long, but I currently am mom to 4, 12 and 9-year-old girls and twin boys who just turned 3. So that's my current life. But about 2007, I joined the military. So I had just turned 21. I was going to go into high school, kind of chickened out. And a couple years later was like, yeah, I should have gone and did. And so grateful that I did. Still was a choice I would do a million times over. Did my deployment to Iraq from 08 to 09. So when things were calming down. So what some would call a cakewalk of a deployment or a...
That's interesting to think of.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. There is, and especially when you get into the hard guys, they're like, oh, that was an easy way. And well, I digress on that, especially because it literally altered my entire mental status. I'm going to tell you right now,
I would never call any deployment or any service a cakewalk. I'm also your traditional civilian. So I understand how being in the military, how people may view it. But I'm telling you right now, no, not a cakewalk.
The first time I said that to my husband, he literally was like baffled. He didn't even know what to say. He's like, I can't even imagine serving, let alone serving a year in a we were mortared on a pretty much daily. I would say maybe every other day. But definitely, at the very least, 4 or 5 times a week, that alarm was going off somewhere on the base. So there definitely, I don't think it was easy.
No.
By any shot of the means. My job was my job. I still was a paralegal. I sat at a desk a lot of the time, but I did a lot of work with local nationals. I got to meet hundreds of local Iraqi civilian people who were just amazing. Just the culture and the things that I learned and the people I got to be around. So there was so much positive from it too, but it definitely altered my mental health status permanently. I mean,
Sorry, did you say a paralegal? You were a paralegal
that
in the
was,
military?
yeah. So 27 Delta was the technical term, the MOS for it. It's paralegal specialist. I tried to choose something that I knew could translate well into the civilian world afterward, which after being a paralegal 4 or 5 years, I was like, never. They do all the work, they get none of the credit, and they don't get paid nearly enough. So it was like, probably no. But it is something that I have the experience. I have college credits in it. I have a whole, so I could, if I really wanted to, go finish, like go get a degree in it and do it. But again, like I said, they work so hard and the attorneys get all the credit. So it's like.
I'm just thinking as you were talking, even about, the deployment and what'd you say, 27 Delta? Is that what it was?
Yep.
I'm just thinking about how many folks I've communicated with that have served in the military, and that military language, I feel like you never lose it.
My mom still talks about how much she hated it because the acronyms and just everything was like, you go to BCT and you had to take your AS. And she's like, I don't know what any of that is. And even after years, she still didn't really. And I still do it. Even with the military time, I find myself still doing that. There's so many of the habits that just stick. Like you can't. And even the cussing. Like I'm actually very proud of myself that I haven't cussed once. And I've been trying. I told myself before we started this that I was going to be super subconscious about it because I just am. And I feel like I've always been that way, but it definitely got worse after the Army. And then once my mental health, it just kind of went out the window. Then it really was just like I swear just as much when I'm happy as I do when I'm like mad about something, so I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's just an emotion. I feel like they should take some of the tone off of the F word. I don't know how,
It's like your passionate language. It's when you're really passionate, whether you're angry or really amped up.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. They've done studies recently that said like people that swear tend to be more intelligent or have higher IQs or something. Might just be some talking point we all made up just so we could swear more, but
Okay, so you were deployed from 08 to 09.
Yep. My back had already started to be a problem like when I was going through training and stuff, but I kind of just pushed through it. And when I got back, my back was significantly worse just from like 10 and 12-hour days, sometimes wearing that gear. Most women come out with a hip or a back problem. So when I got home, it was significantly worse. I had MRI and they're like, this isn't good. So I started the whole tinge of, physical therapies and pain managements and all the stuff. And I eventually got to a point where they're like, yeah, you're going to have to get medically, out. So they started my whole med board process. But at that point, I was already in, civilian pain management on an insane amount of painkillers. So probably was a good move that I wasn't active duty at that point. I see the purpose of they want you to be like pain-free so you can do your job. But at one point, am I sacrificing my job? Like I actually crashed my car we had a range day. So which means I had to get up at like 0400, drive an hour down to Fort Stewart. And we were down at the range the entire day, hot, miserable day. And we got back and I was driving my car from my battalion back to my house and I fell asleep behind the wheel. And that was kind of one of my first signs that I was probably on too much pain medicine, number one, and that I was pushing beyond my bounds at that point. Like I probably shouldn't have been in a range all day anyways. But then I'm like, never mind, on pain medicine, so I'm like, yeah, this is becoming a thing. I was kind of glad. I was sad I was getting med boarded because I really did plan on staying in. I would have absolutely, 20 years and retire, like that's amazing, So I really did plan on staying in, but that obviously put a hinge on that. So I went through the whole process to get out. I'd say about a year-long process, just like in the getting out and whatever. And then my marriage tanked in the process of that, which was kind of a marriage just for benefits. Anyways, I can say that I think my ex-husband would say the exact same thing. And we've come to good terms in years, but he would say the same thing. So that fell apart. And that's why I was like, yeah, I'm moving back to Mass, which I don't know why I thought that was going to make things better when I had an opiate addiction. But And I did.
I was like, you just tossed in that opiate addiction out of nowhere. So
yeah, oh yeah. Honestly, it's such a big part of my story too, though, that I feel like the big part of who I am. I mean, I definitely, wouldn't be, nearly as strong a person as if I hadn't gone through all that.
It's one of the main reasons that I actually invited you is because of that, because you have been transparent with that. And so, yeah, we played softball together. And then, of course, Facebook friends is like the natural next step.
Yes.
And you have been very honest about that experience. And I think also, gosh, I don't know when we became Facebook friends, but I feel like it was between, I'd say, 2015 and 2018.
Yeah, probably around the time I had my daughter, because my younger daughter, because after I had her, I did that article it was a Mass Live article, and it was actually, I didn't know they were putting it on the front page of the Sunday paper. I found that out after it was already in the Sunday paper.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of so many people I played softball with in particular reached out to me after that article, because I don't think anybody knew.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people that I genuinely knew pretty well had no idea that I had gone through all that. No, none. And I'm like, in one sense, is like, it's good. But in another sense, it's like, but people need to know that, like, you never know who is going through it.
I'm curious, was it, did the addiction get started as a result of the pain meds from?
Yep, active duty. So I'd say I probably started on pretty heavy pain meds about the 2010-ish. And I admitted myself into rehab the day after my daughter's second birthday. So November 30th, 2015. So it was a genuine, solid 5-year, I'd say probably closer to 6-year opiate battle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's nothing less than a battle. I mean, it absolutely is a battle with everything I had,
I have, I tell anyone who's sober, regardless of where they are in their journey, because, sobriety looks so different for different people, that, like, I think people who are managing an addiction or have managed an addiction or are in recovery are like some of the best people I know. Like, I have so much respect, so much, I don't know. I just think they're the coolest people. Because they're the realest, like, to go through an addiction.
And that's like, they've been through it, through it.
And they still show up.
And they're thinking one of the biggest things, and I know they tell you, like, I wasn't like an NA person, and I will not down it, because it definitely, AA and NA are wonderful, have saved lives, countless. Wasn't for me, didn't feel right for me. But one of the biggest things they push is the love and service factor. And I think that's the biggest thing in, like, the whole talking about it. And it was a NICU nurse, after I had my daughter, Ella, that had been like, listen, I talked to somebody from Mass Live, and, like, she called them. And so I was like, well, that was cool of you. Kind of. And she's like, you don't have to. And she's like, and you could do it kind of anonymously too. And I said, absolutely not anonymously. And I said, call her and him and whoever, said, get him here. I mean, I was spending every day in the hospital at that point. So I said, yeah, get him here. And sat down. I said, that's the biggest thing, is if my story can help even one singular person, even just one. And I know just from the messages that I got after they put that article in the paper, just even from some of, like, my high school teachers.
Oh yeah. I
mean, the outreach, the outpour of support was wild. First, I was so nervous, because this is my hometown. These are the people, like I said, a lot of people who had genuinely no clue, who were so proud of me. And even, like, my family and stuff, like my meme specifically, like, had me up on this pedestal, like, so proud, going to service and doing my thing. And, and it was like, I let everybody down.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's how I genuinely lived in my headspace for a while about it. And it's like, you're clean, you're doing the right things, and you're doing good. Your daughter's healthy and beautiful. And now your second daughter's healthy and beautiful. Why? Why would you not tell your story? Why would you not give somebody else hope that it doesn't end that way? It doesn't have to end that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Never mind the stigma, even just with something with like Suboxone. It took me 10 years to get off of it. Okay. So like for anybody who's going to sit and, be like, well, they're not really clean. Well, I hate those people anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like maintenance drugs saved my life, quite literally. And it's like, that's what I never relapsed one single time. So we can say, the medication obviously was a huge part of that. But the only time I had ever had an opiate anywhere near my system was when I was in full-blown labor. And that was it, and it was like, I never looked back because I had that assistance. And then now there's that Subutex, which is what I used to come off, which I feel like I have to talk about because I'm so mad I didn't do it so much sooner. Well, the problem was I was on such a low dose of Suboxone, and Subutex was designed for people who want a much higher dose. So I had to actually up my dose just to go on the shot, which I was like, seems like such a backwards thing after 10 years to up my dose. I was off in not even 4 months. Done.
Wow.
Done. Never even had to look at a facility, nothing. It was like 37 days since I had gotten my shot. And I looked at my husband and I was like, when was my appointment? He's like, oh, I don't know. He scrolls into his calendar and he's like 37 days ago. And I was like, oh my God, I'm done. I was like, I did a little jig around the house, like just dancing around, like I'm done. Like, I can't believe I'm done. And just like the freedom of like, whether it was pain medicine or antidepressant or something to sleep or something for anxiety, whatever it was, but on some medication every single day of my life. So go on vacation, got to make sure I have everything right. Got to make sure I have my pills. I got to make sure I have my drugs at one point, make sure I got my whatever. And it's so freeing. I don't have to think about any of that anymore. I go anywhere.
Yeah. Gosh, I didn't even think about that side of sobriety, of like not having to have that. I mean, it's such a small piece of the day, but it's still a massive piece of like your mind.
It is literally my whole mind. I feel like I can't even every day waking up having to take something that will keep you from being ill. And then just being at a point where you no longer have to do that. The sense of freedom behind that is just, I wish I could give it to every addict. Like I wish and I feel like there's not enough out there. I actually wrote the company that makes Subutex because I said, you guys should have way more ads out there. Like I am but part of that. I don't know. There was some conspiracy theory, if you want to call it, but I'm like, I don't know. Is that big pharma has too many people on the long-term maintenance drugs? They don't want them coming off of them. It's like, because again, I haven't looked back. I haven't even, not one day did I think, oh man, like I kind of wish it, no.
That's unreal. That is unreal.
It's wild. Just like shut it off. That's great. It was crazy.
What's that feel like? What's it feel like?
I don't even like, there's literally not words. There is quite literally not words. And like, I have had so many like really awesome things happen in my life and just really good celebratory moments and just awesome things. Nothing quite explains the freeing feeling of just being completely free of my addiction. Like I could say it before to an extent, but I couldn't fully say it. And like now I can. And that's what I think. I don't even know if before I was off that, if I would have said yes to a podcast. So I genuinely feel like it's part of the place that I got, to a point in healing where I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah. I am ready.
Oh, that's so cool.
Genuinely for the next chapter of my life. We say that about everything, but I feel like this really was a clean slate. And I said, writing it down was a huge part of it, which I'm almost done. I think I'm about 2 chapters shy of my book.
I'm so glad you mentioned that too. Yeah. So I feel like your life story, which I only know just small pieces of, is probably so interesting. And like, the time spent serving, definitely the sobriety piece, your life afterward, like how you view things now, like what a great opportunity to, take the time and write it down.
It was genuinely you. No, I've had people through the years, I was always a good writer, like even in high school, like essays and papers that I wrote, be like, you got away with words, like you could. And so everybody's always said that, even just like some of my childhood stuff, which I like could be probably a whole book in itself, but or just growing up my entire life as an ADHD and having no idea, that could probably be a book in itself
that could
too.
do it.
But so many people were like, you should write it down. Tell the whole story, like tell the grit, tell all of it. And I'm like, yeah, someday. And I'd always say that, like, yeah, maybe someday. Yeah, maybe someday. And I'd always know if it was finally having enough mental clarity from like being off the Suboxone and whatever. But it was genuinely your message that said, do it.
Oh,
I'm telling you, I started writing like the next day or maybe 2 days later. And I got through 5 chapters in a week, maybe.
Wow.
And I was like so damn proud of myself. And I said, I think I've got about 8 full chapters. I wanted it to be 10, so I'm just about there. I don't know how to even publish a book, but I'm going to try.
Oh, you can totally. Oh, we can talk about it. We can make it happen.
I was going to say, yeah, you know some people.
I know a few people that have definitely self-published some books.
Like I said, it's a good and that's even in this kind of self-help sense, so just reading a story of somebody else. Like I know I've had, influencers, other people that I've picked up and read, and I'm not a book reader by any means, but like Elise Myers, I read her book, and Tiffany Jenkins, I read her book. So it's another, addiction, just somebody else that I was like kind of inspired by that person's story. So like, I'm gonna read that. And I just feel like why not? And I think if getting that out also helped me just moving forward, just now taking the next step in what I want to kind of do with my life, if you will. I was almost like I wasn't clear-headed enough to do that. Like I needed to kind of level with my past a little or something. It was like, I'm not sure how it was like therapeutic, but it's so great. Like even my husband would say, like he could tell the days that I found some time to write during the day because he could tell my mood was different at the end of the day. And there's something about it. It's cathartic, like just get it all out. And now I feel like something about doing that, I can like take on the next thing, whatever it be in my life. In this case, local government.
Yeah. So what's the adventure that you're on now with local government?
That's it. So I don't know if I shoot to be a delegate first. Not really. That's kind of why I started taking a political science and civics course online. I'm trying to just get myself up to know a little bit more what I'm talking about. But the bottom line is I swore an oath to the Constitution, and I still can't, I can't not serve it. I feel like I just, maybe that's part of our service member thing or whatever it be, but I can't just sit back and watch a bunch of people just outright violate the Constitution and say and do nothing about it. And I can sit at home and about it, but that's not doing anything. And I see how little it's, although I say that they tried to recently take our committee from 9 people down to 5 people and completely eliminate the Black representation in our county, like completely. It would have, excuse me. So they introduced this policy. And they did it super underhanded. They did it at a meeting that like nobody was at. And luckily there's enough people out there right now following along every single thing and knew when they were going to talk about it and when possibly bring it up and vote on it. And the community showed up and showed out that you couldn't even fit another person in that room. It was insane. They literally put the policy to bed immediately. That's not happening enough. And I see, like, I live at this point, I've called myself a blue dot in a red state, in a very red state. I can't sit back anymore. I can't. And then I was like, to be around too many people who not only voted to put us here, who stood behind a lot of the stuff, were like, oh, I'm just ignoring it now. Well, that isn't that convenient for you now that now you got us here, you can just ignore it. Well, I'm not going to. So
yeah, you're totally, I'm just thinking, even as you're talking, you're so activated about it. Like you're an activist. Like
honestly, it's what it is. And it's funny. I see too many women's and reproductive rights being messed with right now. And I say, I have daughters. Ew. Just you. There's no other way. There's like no other way. And I'm like, this is why we live in a democracy, why we live in a constitutional republic, why we have the ability to speak up and speak for ourselves and protect her. I'll be damned if my daughters are going to have less rights than my grandmother did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not this one. I'm not the one. Maybe somebody else, but I'm not the one. Especially at this point in my life. I'm home with my kids. I don't I don't have a, full-time job that I'm dedicated to. I'm not playing softball right now, which is typically where I put my passion other than my children. That's my other place to put my passion. So I'm like, I need somewhere to put that passion, where I feel like I needed some kind of, mission, some motivator, some drive to do something else with my life. And I didn't quite know what that was. And I think this, political environment absolutely just kind of pushed me to show me exactly what that was. I mean, I looked at my husband and I said, I'm not saying I'm going to go run for, mayor or anything, like anything like that. But I'm also not saying I'm not.
Yeah, you're open to all of it.
Exactly. So if I step into it and everybody's like, yep, we want you to be the front runner, I might run with that.
Being a blue dot in a red state, like how do you manage, I guess, like when people have significantly opposing views to you and they're really vocal about it?
Most of my life, I've kind of shut down in controversy. Like somebody's coming at me really hard about something. I feel like, I don't maybe, just my lifetime, my experiences and where I've gotten at this point. And I feel like they're so wrong. Mm-hmm. I feel like I don't, like normally I can't take on an argument where there's a chance I might be wrong, where they're like, I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're just at this point, is somebody who is still full blown supporting this administration, this government, this whatever, that there's no way I can't win an argument with them if I really want to go there. And I don't know, I can hold myself together in a way. And maybe that's why I thought maybe I should go do this like on a semi-professional level, like as a delegate, because I found I can really kind of hold myself together better than I thought. Because I thought it either A, would shut down, just like, I can't do this. I can't argue with a person. I can't get into this. It's too heated but I can hold myself together a little better than I ever have been able to. So I'm not sure if it's just, like I said, I'm so fed up that I'm like, this has to change. Yeah. That we need enough people to be level-headed enough to be able to do this, to stand up for what is right, to say what's right. And, and I'm like, I guess I'm just going to be one of those people.
You mentioned the ADHD stuff. So tell our listeners a little bit about that. Have you been formally diagnosed? Which, by the way, self-diagnosis counts.
I do have to check my records. It definitely for sure was a self-diagnosis, like 100%, because I was like going down the lists and taking all the quizzes and the things online, and it was like, wow, or just seeing other people's stories, and it was like, oh my god, that's me. But then I did sit down actually while I was coming off of Suboxone. It was one of the things that I asked, and I said, because it's becoming more and more prevalent, like worse, just the extremes of it. I was like, this isn't just like anxiety, doc. Like my brain is scattered all the time. Like I can't focus. But then it was like all the other things that were so very clearly autistic, just signs of it. So I went for one eval, but I think was the ADHD diagnosis first. So I'm waiting on that one. So I am mid-diagnosis, but yeah, that's been a whirlwind.
Yeah. So what has life been like as you honestly start to wrap your brain around it?
The grace that I've been able to give myself is honestly the biggest thing. And I think that's why, like, a lot of people are like, oh, don't bother with getting the diagnosis. But I feel like if you can, there's like something, I don't know, the validation of it, kind of like just feel like, okay, but this makes so much more sense. And now I can look back at like so many different points in my life and like, I'll like genuinely laugh about it, but like, wow, like if that wasn't the autistic me, I can't tell you what was, even just going through my childhood things, and I've talked about it with my mom. She goes, I don't want her to get the guilt, like, well, I didn't get you looked into. And nobody did in our generation, Mom, especially with girls, because it presents so differently. And I said, it was a textbook case, absolute textbook case. And she's like, that kind of does make sense now. Like when we start breaking it down, I'm like, yeah, just the grace I've been able to, I think that's part of why I am in this kind of just healed. I don't want to say healing. I guess I'm always healing. I feel like we're always healing from something. But more healed phase in my life where I feel like I could take on something else in my life or do something else. And it's partially because of that. Like just, that grace.
It's It's so interesting that you said healed versus healing, because as you were talking about recovery and sobriety, I almost had this feeling of like when you said like, oh, I, did a little jig, like so excited, this thing's over. I thought to myself, oh, that's so interesting. Like to think about it as like that part of your life is done. Is that what it feels like? So like when I think about healing, like, do you feel like,
like
like everything has been wrapped up, loose ends are tied.
Like you look down and there isn't a scar. The scar is so faint that it's like, I'm healed. Oh my gosh, this is totally healed. Like obviously there's always that underlying wound. And obviously there's the mental health stuff that just comes from years of drug use and addiction and all the things. But there it is. That genuinely was what it felt like. Like a huge part of me was just healed. Like just.
Do you feel like the same person or do you feel like a new person or something else?
That's a good question. I've never posed it that way. It's definitely, it's a new version for sure, because I feel like when I get with my siblings or when I get in certain places or on a softball field, and this is where I feel like you probably, and this is how I knew we were so much alike and how I knew you knew more a genuine sense of me than some other people, even though we may not have been super close. Mm-hmm. Because I've had people that I've known my whole life tell me I am my most authentic self. I'm the most Jackie version of me when I'm on a softball field. That's just the most, like I'm the silly one doing a cartwheel as I'm going out to the outfield, or, like the dump shots that I still do to this day that are embedded. So there's still so much of me that is like this. Goober is what my mom and dad called me when I was really small. Silly on the inside, sweet on the outside, and I didn't have there was nothing. I was a phenomenal kid in terms of like behavior and whatever. So Goober, but I was always just a silly goose, and I feel like you got to be a silly goose. Like I feel like that is part of like getting through life is being weird. There was no other way for me to put that. Like they're genuinely like me and my mom were saying it before I did this because they said, that it's called buttery weird. She's like, I don't want to be around people who aren't a little weird.
Yeah.
Like nobody wants to be around like somebody who's like really weird, but you know what I mean? Like, but that's subjective too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like not everybody thinks certain things are weird. And in my eyes, everybody has something weird about them for sure. Like absolutely. But like me and my sister, that's part of just being a goose sometimes, just like laughing hysterically over the stupidest things or just saying things in silly ways or like singing words instead of saying them, or just doing a little jig to get across the room, or like just being silly, like just reminding ourselves that like we have to bring those little bits of like weird and joy and happy, otherwise this life can be miserable.
So it sounds like you are weird. What does weird mean to you?
I don't even know if like normal, what's normal?
Yeah, we can do a second podcast called, But Are You Normal?
Because I feel like if someone classifies themselves like as a normal person, like what is that?
I don't want to meet any normal people.
And I said, so if that is the case, then I just want to be around solely weird people that don't fall within the averages, I guess, like in whatever way that be. But like, I'd much rather be classified as weird for sure.
Oh, totally. Totally. All right. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners?
Honestly, just like we were talking about earlier, just telling your story, whatever it is. Honestly, whatever it is. I mean, to help one person, to help another person in the littlest bit of hope that where they are in life isn't permanent, that they can get through just about, I've been through, just about all the things a person can go through. And I would undoubtedly say I am standing so much stronger on the other side of all of those things. I got through 100% of my bad days. There's like the best way to put it. It's like, get out there, tell your story, move on with your life, and it's important. It's important to moving on and getting on with your own life, to sit and tell your story and to face your own stuff and to give yourself the grace.
I've got this visual when I think about like your life, as we've talked about it. I almost feel like, you went through the first, I don't know, 25-ish, maybe. I don't know what the actual math would be, but years with like heavy weights on you, right? Like managing your life as your childhood, whatever that looked like, right? You can only do so much as a kid anyway. So that's a weight that's put on you. And then you have addiction that you never asked for that you have to manage. And it's like, once that came off, once you entered into sobriety, it was like all the weights came off and you're just like, zoom.
Yeah, literal weights. I mean, and physically washing weight too. And that's physically like in the best shape of my life physically in my early 40s. So like, yeah, let's go.
That's a wrap on this episode of But Are You Weird? Thanks so much to Jackie for letting us get to know you and showing us your weird and wonderful and super motivated self. And thanks to you for tuning in and getting weird with us. I'm so glad you're here. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, leave a comment, or share it with your favorite curious mind. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and definitely stay weird.